So let me begin the presentation here. We are ready. It's a very interesting presentation. I'm not going to be doing it alone. And I'm very happy that one of my ex-parents that I worked with a few years ago is going to join me. His name is Mr. Prashant Kandoi, and he's the founder of Evio Private Limited. Evio is a very interesting technology startup and a business that Mr. Kandoi started. It's a technology service provider, and it enables other technology and engineering companies with the challenges that they face with innovating and with automating. So I think it's a very apt partner for today's presentation, where I'm going to be talking about the future of jobs. So I have started bang on time because I'm expecting Mr. Kandoi and his team to join us in about 25 to 30 minutes. So I want to cover a lot of ground in the meantime. Let's begin with a very simple poll. I am aware that primarily we set up the presentation today for counselors, and this is a series that we began about 5-6 weeks ago, and this is presentation number 5. But I'm aware that there are parents and students who have joined in today. So I'm going to launch this poll. If you could identify yourself, that will help me keep it relevant for the audience. So here goes, and very quickly, let's spend 30 seconds doing this. Very interesting result. I'm pleasantly surprised to see that more than half the people who have joined us today are students, and counselors are only a quarter of the audience. So it's going to be interesting because I had built this presentation for counselors. So I suppose that the students and the parents who are joining us today are going to see what it's like behind closed doors when counselors talk to other counselors. All right. So thank you for that. Couple of points before I go ahead. Number one is we are recording the session today, and it will be available on my YouTube channel along with all the other videos from previous webinars. And point number two is I'm aware all of you will have great questions to ask, and I'm looking forward to them. I would simply request you to post them at the end of the webinar today in the Q&A section. So having said that, let me go ahead with the presentation. So here's an interesting aspect of my life, and this is something I have conversation with students and parents about. 50% of my time goes into talking about perhaps what a student should study or what they should do in their life. So it's a very, very relevant question that me and other counselors, parents and students face. And typically I have seen, when I ask students this question, that what do you want to study? The usual responses are about 60% of them will say something to do with STEM, about 15% of them will say something to do with the humanities, around 15% will say something to do with business or commerce, finance, and the remaining 10% are the outliers who have something very different or creative to say. It's always very interesting to listen. And that's the perspective on the ground in India. I suspect many of the school counselors who are attending and the independent counselors who are attending today will testify to that. So when I ask the students, hey, okay, so you want to be an entrepreneur like Elon Musk, or an economist like Geeta Gopinath, or a doctor or a lawyer or a techie or an engineer or an investment banker, how did you decide you want to do this? So the first response I always get is, well, that's what I thought, that it has a future. I thought I'm going to have a great lifestyle. I'm going to make money, wealth, fame fortune, power, all of those things. So I'm doing it because I'm going to make it, So, all right, that's an interesting idea. Other students I ask say things like, depends on my marks. If I score well in school in sciences and math, then I'm going to go for STEM. And if I don't, then it's going to be commerce. And if I still don't, then it's going to be something else, maybe arts or something else. I don't know. Sometimes some students tell me, well, I'm going to do that because my family does that. And we've always been doing that. Or a successful cousin or a successful neighbor does that. And I think that's what I would like to do. I'm exposed to it. I know a thing or two outside of my school about this field. Other times I hear from students about, well, my best friend said that, she was going to be a CA, so I thought I would tag along. So surprising, but, it's the reality of how a teenager's mind works. So, that's the premise. That's where we are starting. That's the mindset, we are helping our students think about jobs in the future, and they are basing all of their thinking on the current economic scenario and the current opportunities that they see around them. Worse yet, past opportunities that they have seen. So at the same time, when I talk to parents, they are very much interested in, well, what's a great field for the future? Can you tell us where the opportunities are? They are more ready to listen because they have seen times changing. They have even seen the need for counselors such as us to come and consult and get a sense for their child and what opportunities are right for them. And perhaps, the more enlightened conversations have been with parents about where the great opportunities are, because so many of them are from industry and they can see that the winds of change are blowing across the economy. So, that's where we are. And probably this is one of the most important questions of your life. What do you want to do? All right. Okay, so one quick point as a side note, I'm getting questions about this. I would appreciate if you can post the questions later. Yeah, thank you. So that's one side of the table. And you come to the other side of the table and you have independent and school counselors and other adults who are trying to mentor and guide the young ones about, what they should be doing in the future. So that involves a bit of looking into the future. And it involves a student looking within. I cannot tell you how important it is that you marry both of those philosophies, that what is coming out there in the future, in time, and number two, look within you and who you are truly as an individual at your core. And the better job you do of multiplying both of those factors, I think more likely you are to be in alignment with your real self in the future. So every time I meet a school counselor, at a conference or visiting a school, I always ask them, how do you guide these kids, for the future? Because we are sitting here in our room and the world is changing around us. And it's always very interesting to hear their feedback. The one thing they always say is, well, the need for counseling is going up, So it's kind of like when I was a kid and there was just one cereal. And then as I grew older, there were more cereal boxes and it became harder and harder to choose which cereal was right for breakfast today. In the same way, the jobs are changing and opportunities are changing. And I think students and parents remain more confused about what is out there tomorrow. So I think the webinar today is very relevant. Few months ago, I was lucky to have dinner with a college president, and he said something very interesting and it stayed with me. He said, we are doing a phenomenal job of educating these young people for their future and grooming them holistically. What that future is, we don't know. And that was very interesting for me because, they don't know what's coming and yet they're educating a person towards it. And parents are investing so much money and time and emotions into this process. So it's very important to step back and look at the bigger picture and where the world is changing And at the moment, how it's being catalyzed by COVID-19, I think the world was going in a certain direction. And I think that process is only going to be catalyzed by what we are seeing. So personally, when students come and ask me about, what is the right direction for me for the future, I very much rely on my personal natural talents assessment, and probably one of the only people in India at the moment to assess natural talents within people that helps them identify who they are at their very core. And it's not about your personality or interests. Those things are definitely going to change as you grow older, but very important to identify your core talents and intelligences, and see that what college major and what roles and career opportunities align with that. Many a times, you may realize that that's not what you were interested in at the moment. And it's a reality that students choose the field that they want to study at the age of 18 without not knowing too much about the world. I was revisiting one of the books I was reading a few years ago about called College Unbound, or something like that, Uncollege. And they were saying that it's so important now more than ever before to pause and think about where you are going. So, how do we guide kids for the future? Big question. And then we see things like this, that a study from Oxford a few years ago and came out and said that 47, 50% of the jobs out there in the first world are going to vanish in the next 2 decades. And it's nothing new, right? It's been happening forever, ever since the Brits came to India and we had handloom weavers and they had machines in Manchester, ever since the printing press and the postman with email and the liftman with automation technology. So technology has been disrupting jobs and changing society ever since the Renaissance. And it's definitely happening more in the West. And those winds of change are sweeping across the rest of the world. So that is one very big message, that stand back and watch how technology is evolving and how it is going to reshape, reorganize, rearrange our entire supply chain of how we work as society and the dynamics of societies both within them and between them. So, having set the stage, let me just hit a pause button and do a quick poll. I thought of a very interesting question that I wanted to put out there, and I am going to give everybody a minute to think about this and pick one response, please. Thank you. Okay, thank you so much for this. I'm very intrigued by these results. Number one, I'm going to take a quick screenshot of this for future reference. And number two, I'm sharing the results with you. So the question was, which of these statements do you most agree with? It's almost like an SAT question. Number one, technology, artificial intelligence, and Internet of Things will eliminate large majority of the jobs. And only a minority of you agreed with that. Technology will change the nature of the job, but won't eliminate them. Okay? Technology will reshape industry and society strongly. Some new jobs will emerge and some old jobs will remain. And the last one is we simply cannot predict the impact of technology and the impact it will have on jobs in society and what are the jobs of the future. So the clear winner there, 2/3 of you think that we are going to have a balanced growth. What really happens remains to be seen, but it's interesting to see that a clear consensus has come out from today's audience. I don't know if I can second this because nobody really knows exactly which way things are going to go. I mean, we remain hopeful, and this is a hopeful response, but what really is going to happen, I think we'll have to wait and watch. Just like with COVID-19, we don't know how this is going to unfold. Similarly with technology and how it's changing the job scenario, we simply don't know what is going to happen. So let's wait and watch. All right. Now, having done that poll, let me jump back to my presentation. It's 6:46. I have sort of 15 more minutes. And I thought that, I should share some interesting insights with you. So here is my insight number one. And this is the way, so this is not put forward by me, this idea, but it's a research from the World Bank. And it's a response in ways to that Oxford study. Everybody was relatively freaked out when that Oxford study came out, and the World Bank study came out sometime later and said, while that is true, that a large majority of jobs are going to go away on one side because of automation, innovation is the great balancer. So if you think about society, there is a seesaw that is going on between automation and innovation. And innovation leads to automation. And how much automation there is in a sector or in society determines how the jobs are. So, simply thinking about innovation, we love here in India to talk about ancient India and, our Vedic times and how advanced technology there was. And also, when we talk to entrepreneurs in India, I see very frequently them talking about the philosophy of Jugaad here in India. But the simple fact is that, the West wins this race, and they're pumping billions and billions of dollars into research, into cutting edge research right across the board. It's a result of them wanting to have military dominance. It's a result of them wanting to have technological advance, sophisticated technology for their industry. Universities in the West, Europe and North America tend to get funding not just from the military and the government, but also companies, and that definitely boosts their ability to be at the very cutting edge of society. And as that, very cutting edge of technology, as that technology slowly comes into the mainstream and as we're able to define processes better, things are going to automate, So companies love to reduce costs. People are costs. They love to streamline processes and they like predictable things. And automation is going to happen. As customers, we like things which work and which are cheaper. So it's very simple. Automation is the name of the game. We will innovate, we will automate, and the balance between the two and that great seesaw is going to determine, the kind of job opportunities that we are going to see in the next decade, in the next 2 decades. So that's the first idea that I want to present to you, that as counselors, as children who are thinking about their future, think of a sector that you're thinking about, a job or a company or an industry, and think about that balance between innovation and automation. So as you think about your own life in the next few years, what is it that you see getting automated? And what is it that you see, where is the innovation going to come up? And where will there be interesting opportunities? So another study I read about said, there's going to be a great boom in entrepreneurship and freelancing rather than jobs, So large companies, medium-sized companies are going to automate and deliver products and services, and small individuals are going to innovate and be great entrepreneurs. They are the faster moving fish, and the larger moving fish, they don't innovate as fast. So that was another interesting part. The second thing I want to present to you, and I'm sure the counselors are aware of this, and the industry professionals are aware of this, and students are not. Most of the students do not know what Industry 4.0 is. So if you think about Industrial Revolution, the first one was very mechanical in nature. So think of the printing press, you know, it was, and the one done by hand. It used to be written, the Bible used to be written by hand, and then there was the printing press, the Gutenberg press, which mechanized the process. You know, and then it was later, energy was fed into it from steam and horses and things like that. Then we went to an era of assembly lines and mass production. So you can think of your biscuits, for example, and how they used to be made by one person or a group of people by hand, and then slowly it went into mass production, and packs of biscuit were rolling off the assembly line. And then came Industry 3.0, which was, you know, think of how the Mercedes-Benz is manufactured, and it has an assembly line, and it used to be done by hand at every stage of the process. Then the people went away or got reduced, and then robots replaced them, and they manufactured everything in an automated manner, connected to computers. And now with Industry 4.0, something very interesting is happening. We are now connecting those things both inside the factory and outside in society wirelessly, in a smart manner, so that not just physical movement is happening, but information is flowing as well. And when we think of the internet, and you hear this word Internet of Things, it's very simply, today the internet is laptops and servers and mobile phones and tablets, and they're connected to each other. And the Internet of Things is when all the other things, all the other electrical and non-electrical goods that we see around us also connected to the internet. And so therefore, today, if I want to order a pizza from the Domino's across the street, you know, I have to order it online or on my phone, and the order goes to them. And then manually they have to make the pizza, and manually they have to deliver it. In the future, we are looking at completely seamless, manless integration of data and product from manufacturers and suppliers straight to consumers. So consumers like that, things might get cheaper, things might become more available. Industry likes that, it makes it more profitable. But this is very much the future that we are already in, and how this is going to be catalyzed by artificial intelligence, and you know, it remains to be seen. And some predictions are very dire, others are not that strong. So let's wait and see. And I think in the second half of today's presentation, you're going to hear a lot about this. So that's the second thought I want to put in front of you after the great seesawing of automation and innovation, is that we are moving forward, and we are now in the era of Industry 4.0, Industrial Revolution Generation 4. The third idea I want to put in front of you, and this is a personal thought, so the disclaimer here is, while many of these things are results of research studies conducted by experts, the third slide I'm presenting to you is very much the personal opinions of your humble counselor. And these are areas that I personally see as a lot of jobs and opportunities opening up in the future. So the basic notion I want to put out there is, organizations and people, if we can define what we do, then in the future, artificial intelligence and machine will be doing it. It's as simple as that. You know, if you have become stable and you can define and chalk out in a standard operating procedure what you do with a lot of if-thens, AI is going to do it, a machine is going to do it, and they're going to do a better job than you because they won't have manual error. Or at least that's the idea. Things that I think have a great future. So students who are out there listening, and I know some of you who have interacted with me, and I've spoken about this during the past, and I've broken the list up into two different categories. One is STEM, which is on the top, and the second is non-STEM. So obviously robotics, I think there is no doubt today in anybody's mind that there are going to be more opportunities in robotics, and in every single aspect of our life. And probably we are going to have robots for things that we couldn't do so far, you know. So there are going to be some very interesting kind of robots coming out. As we become more tech-oriented. I think cybersecurity is another field that is going to gain more traction. And obviously, we are already seeing a big requirement for this. Hackers from Russia, hackers from China, hackers from Nigeria wanting to invade our space and trying to manipulate everything that is happening in society. So securing our digital and virtual existence is going to be very important. Obviously, artificial intelligence and machine learning is a big trend for the future, and such a popular choice with students who are choosing to study computer science at college. Supply chain automation is going to be a great one. I think the way we move our goods from manufacturers to consumers, to customers, internally, externally, outside of the supply chain, the consumer supply chain, it's going to be completely automated in the future. So, great opportunities in the next few years in supply chain for those of you who are interested. Our chemistry is improving, simply put. We are getting better with tinkering around with the hydrogen, helium, and all of the other atoms. And we need newer materials, and nanotechnology and material sciences is booming. And obviously, if I'm wearing this t-shirt and it had to be dyed, right? So they took the cotton, they fused it with a synthetic material, then they had to dye it, and then they had to, produce the t-shirt. I think in the future, simply, newer materials will be available, which will be stronger, and there won't be any need for dye, and we'll just straight print a t-shirt or something. So I think great opportunities for those of you who are interested in chemistry, in nanotechnology, and in material sciences. Obviously, that was just one example. There is so much more out there. Biotechnology, right? I think this is so relevant with what is happening right now. But, our understanding of how the biological systems work at the molecular, genetic, and biochemical level is very sophisticated at the moment. And I think applications of biotechnology in food, in healthcare, in industry, we are only just entering the realm of biotechnology. When I was in college, there was this prediction that the tech era is upon us, and then after that, the biotech era will be upon us. And I can see it coming. I think those of you who are interested in research and applications of understanding biology, I think the next few decades are going to be very interesting. Already, I was reading some articles about how meat is starting to get produced in the lab. It's cheaper, it's cleaner, it's better, and it's environmentally friendly. That's just one application. There are thousands others. Agritech, right? So, this is our core industry as human beings. What do human beings do? We farm. And I think the way we farm already has changed in the first world. And I think developing world and the third world is only holding the fort. And before we know it, I think agricultural technologies are going to be here in a very big way. And large-scale farming, corporate farming, urban farming, we are going to see a big boom in agricultural technology in the time to come. So those of you who are interested in that niche field, I think full power to you. And so many top universities are doing research. Just off the top of my head, I can think of Michigan and Cornell and Georgia Tech and Wageningen University in Netherlands. Phenomenal work on agricultural technology. EdTech is another very big one, and I think COVID-19 is probably the big push that was needed to push this cart off the hill, and this was due for a long time, and I think some people are seriously looking at it right now about, can we switch to online learning? Can we switch to blended learning? I think in the next couple of decades, there's going to be a lot of innovation in delivering education all the way from K to 12 to college to post-college. In terms of online education. We know the earth. I think we only know the land. I don't think we know the ocean. I read somewhere we know more about the moon and Mars and Venus than we know about the ocean and what lies underwater. And who knows, maybe there is Aquaman. That's a joke. A bad one, I guess. Ocean exploration, I think only 3% or so of the ocean has been charted. Great opportunities here as man moves in, and we are going to manage fishery better, and we are going to be more aggressive with mining underwater, with moving things underwater. I think great opportunities here in ocean exploration. Virtual reality needs no introduction. How many of you have seen people wearing those VR sets? And we are just waiting to see slowly how everything digital is going to shift into 4D, 5D with virtual reality. Cryptocurrencies and financial technologies is another big one. So what is money in the future? Is it a credit card? Is it blockchain? Is it something else digital? Already, I think we saw a couple of weeks ago, Facebook and Reliance coming together to launch an interesting digital product in the financial space. So what will be the future of banking? Let's wait and watch, but surely big moves are happening in cryptocurrencies and financial technology. We are going to space. It's very simple. We are going to space. It used to be the realm of governments, and now it's in the realm of the private billionaires. And whether Elon Musk goes first, or Amazon goes first, or Richard Branson goes first, great opportunities await us in that final frontier. We are going to space. We are going to the moon. We are going to Mars. We are going to colonize things. We are going to build more space stations. We are going to do interesting things in space tourism. So I think lots of opportunities on that front. While we do all of those things, we seem to be doing a horrible job with the sustainability and nature. So I think everybody is realizing more and more jobs in environmental sciences and sustainability. And data science, right? Data is the new oil, they say. So how we sieve through all of that data and make sense of it, whether it is for the purpose of research, or whether it is in marketing, or whether it is in finance. The applications are endless, but this is something which is increasing. So, and if we can define it better, then AI can do it. So data science is another great field for the future. I realize it's 7:02, and I can see already a couple of my friends from Evio are here. I'm just going to take a couple of more minutes, talk about non-STEM opportunities. I don't want all of you to think that STEM is the only place where opportunities are. So I think, one thing I haven't put on there is entrepreneurship. I think more and more entrepreneurs needed in the future. And the more we have people following that mindset, the better they are going to do. And having said that, because of this automation, we are seeing a lot of social turbulence. We are seeing that there are jobs going down, or jobs moving overseas. And because of those undercurrents, we can see that, politicians, right-wing politicians, people like Donald Trump, nationalist policies, we are seeing them across the country and across the world. And, is globalization dead? That's a big question on everybody's mind. And perhaps there are going to be lots of interesting job opportunities in peace studies and international relations. And, step back and look at it. And international relations used to be the domain of governments and large international organizations. But suddenly, the large corporations have slowly swept in, and, your top Fortune 50, Fortune 100 have international relations departments, and who maintain relations with governments. If you think of a company like Apple or Facebook or Tesla, their turnover is bigger than so many GDP of so many countries. And the way they manage their business, they have to employ people who understand international relations and maintaining relationships with countries and companies around the world. So great opportunities there. One big area is mental health and well-being. So I think all of us will appreciate and recognize that as we go forward, more and more social disturbances are being witnessed as we modernize, and across generations, mental health is becoming more and more of a serious issue. So I think it will continue, and there will be more opportunities, career opportunities in healthcare and mental health in the future. So those of you who are interested in psychology, I think I'm seeing a big boom in this, across the last decade. Urban planning is another one. Urban planning, as we've ruined our cities, we are not able to grow in a systematic, organized, well-planned manner. I think more and more cities and countries are going to have to switch to urban planning models. Um, Design thinking is growing. Hospitality is growing. All of us are ready to pay more for food and hotel and travel and other experiences rather than products. So definitely hospitality is on the rise. Animation, gaming, film, entertainment, more and more of the percentage of wallet of consumers is being spent on this. And the last one is a very interesting one. Humanities used to be very much the realm of qualitative thinkers, and now in the future it will be the realm of quantitative thinkers, as we have data on a lot of behavior by individuals and group of people and across society organizations. So that, in a nutshell, in an express manner, is where I see a lot of job opportunities. I have exhausted my speech now, and I think we have very interesting speakers coming up. So I would like to invite Rupak. I can see him. Welcome, Rupak. Welcome, Ashish. Welcome, Prashant and Anand. So great to have you, all of you with us. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I invite Rupak to share some interesting insights on automation with us. Thank you. Hi, how are you? I hope you don't mind filling in for Rupak.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I believe the subject provided to me today was in terms of impact of IoT and AI in industry. I think Rupak has joined us. Rupak, would you like to start? Just put on the mic. Rupak, you'll have to select the mic.
Yeah, able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think you can continue. Since you have already started, you can.
Fine, no problem. So thank you, Neeraj, and good evening to everyone. My name is Ashish Shah, and I work with EVO Private Limited as the Chief Innovation Officer. Our objective today is to predict the impact of IoT and AI, in today's world, and how will jobs get impacted. From my side, from the beginning of this, little session, I would say jobs are not going to get impacted. They're simply going to change, as Neeraj had pointed out, a few minutes back. The type of jobs is going to change. Okay, it is going to get more domain related, and because of which, right, the type of education that we receive today, right, it has to change a bit. So, for example, let's talk about Agritech. Okay, so Agritech would require what? It requires basically people who understand agriculture, at the same time need to understand technology. Look at 3D printing, for example. Okay, it's an area which is going to actually change how manufacturing is done today. So let's put 3D printing into the agricultural space. So I'm in a remote village, okay, and I need to get a spare part, right, for my my harvesting machine. And can I actually avoid all the logistics costs, right, and manufacture that spare part right there itself, right? This is the kind of technological need, right, which will arise in, let's say, another decade or so. Okay, so what I'll try to do is try to explain further as to how things are happening in the industry as far as IoT and AI is concerned. This economy, right, typically will lead to the emergence, as I said, of new hybrid verticals, right? So, for example, on the edge of IT and medicine, okay, IT and energy, IT and robotics, right, IT and agriculture. So there's going to be a mix of information technology, automation, right, and the traditional industries. So it's a hybrid verticals which will be created. So hybrid industries verticals, which will create jobs with which every business, okay, is already familiar, right? So it's like product managers, software developers, hardware designers, data scientists, okay, user experience designers, sales managers, other positions that will be quite rampant, right? Include say account managers, marketing specialists, product designers, researchers, and sales managers. These are jobs which are quite traditional. They already exist. The only difference is going to be, right, that we are going to actually elevate, right, these jobs into by capacity building, right, of the existing engineers. They'll have to learn more, okay, and we'll have to bring in more new technical skill sets, right. When they patch them together, right, they'll be ready for this new world push that we are looking at. IoT and AI-based automation can also basically, allow for monotonous and unsafe jobs, right, to be replaced by technology and robots. Say for example, we are in a coal mine. Okay, traditionally, right now we send people inside the mine, right, and this is quite an unsafe activity. If we have automation in place, that is, we have machines which are remotely controllable and machines which can sense and deliver the objective. Now, let us say that these machines, the mining machines, are sent in by themselves, right? That means that you are going to create a safe environment because there'll be no humans involved. But at the same time, those jobs that which the humans will, basically will be not get, right? That those will be replaced by more technical people who will be seated behind the control room. These are the engineers who will, instead of being on the field, will now go backwards. Now we'll talk about how are you going to maintain those machines. So obviously field engineers would yet be required, right? So at some point, right, there's always a need for human beings. Human beings cannot be replaced, right, at every given point. I can understand in the IT industry, right, or the software industry where we talk about, the natural language processing and stuff like that, where robots, right, can actually do a lot of human work. But these jobs are not traditional jobs anyways, right? So we are just actually, perfecting these particular elements into such positions where human beings would not be required. They were actually not required in the first place. They were required only for development. So we are not taking away traditional jobs. There are new categories of jobs which will emerge, with greater deployment of IoT and AI. I can, almost in any industry, right, you will find that IoT has a place today. Whether it be basically agriculture, or it be mining, or it be transportation. IoT is here to stay. It's all about sensing, data acquisition, right, and basically analyzing that data. And once you analyze that data, what you want to do is predict, okay, as to what would happen in the future with the help of that data. So you can do predictive maintenance. These are areas which are again technical areas, and they're newly developing areas. So when we talk about machine learning, artificial intelligence, these are all, or data science, that is, these are all interconnected subjects. And where are they interconnected? So earlier we used to do, say, electrical engineering, or electronics and communications, or computer science. All these subjects are slowly merging together, and you are talking about, enhancing skill sets. So, for example, kids today, right, would do electronics and communication, but would yet learn software coding. So it's a mix, and you're actually elevating those particular educational platforms. See, one of the discussion today requires an answer to a fundamental question, right? Will the deployment of IoTs and reduce human intervention to such an extent, okay, that we shall make ourselves redundant? So for this, I have a very simple thing. The primary IoT, right, which is there in the market today, is that mobile phone which is in your hand, right? It started off as a feature phone. Today it is a smartphone. Now the word smart, right, became operable with that phone because it has got a lot of sensors on board. Okay, you can just say your camera, your mic, right, your say keyboard as a manual sensor. You have a gyro built inside for, as an accelerometer, or positioning, XYZ plane positioning of the device. You have a GPS, right, which can tell you what location it is. You have a temperatures and a humidity sensor on board. Many smartphones have those. And you have the camera. Now you try to fuse all these sensors together, and you take sensors which are on the field already, say for example, traffic signals on a road, right? Which all are also transmitting data. When those sensors and the ones in your hand, they combine together, they create a sensor fusion network. And this basically leads to a lot of automation. Rupak, when he starts his speech later, right, will be talking about how automation happens. And this is where the traditional automation is going. We are connecting sensors together to automate things and to provide citizen-centric services. So either it could be a plant manager or an operator, or it could be a citizen on the road, right? So as I said, did the introduction of mobile phones, okay, reduce employability? No. What did it do? It actually increased, right, the consumption of data. It increased, right, the way we perform in terms of quality, because we got more knowledge and faster knowledge availability. From the production perspective, right, because the knowledge was disseminated well, right, within a plant environment or an industrial environment, right, we were able to produce better and we were able to produce more, right. Does this reduce manpower? It did not. Okay, there is no study which says that because mobile phones came in, right, we reduced manpower. We did not. According to me, it actually increased the number of people. The only difference was the people became more capable. So IoTs make you more capable. They do not reduce employability. Artificial intelligence, as I pointed out earlier, when a robotic process basically comes in place, okay, say for example, a secretarial job, okay, or a receptionist job is taken over by a robot. I agree, we are going to lose jobs there, right? But if you are talking from a STEM perspective or engineering or any other administrative perspective other than a very low-end jobs, I do not see human beings being replaced. I'll give you one example. Okay, just this week, our finance minister announced that private players will be able to launch satellites with the help of ISRO's capabilities in India. Now, it was anyways a vision that a lot of countries had. India, by the year 2025, shall have a complete network of satellites dedicated only to IoT, which means the jobs are available in very large numbers for the next 10, 15 years. 2025 means that is by when the first network of satellites will be up. Imagine 1 trillion IoTs talking from every nook and corner of the country, talking to satellites and sending back data to us, analyzed data, pre-analyzed data, right? Which we as citizens will start using. And we'll use it for our processes. We'll use it for our day-to-day work and to analyze and to take decisions, right? So this means, right, that it is going to require a totally new type of, employment. I mean, in terms of education. As I said earlier, you need to enhance your skill sets. That is a primary, problem that we have on hands. We will have to do that, right? But we are not going to lose jobs. And I believe our kids today are very, very, they find it quite easy to absorb technology. It's not like how it was. I mean, I would be, actually happy to share a personal experience. If somebody asks me as to what operating system I use today, right? I use Windows 7. Okay, and there's a reason behind it. Okay, and that is that the interface, okay, of Windows 7 versus Windows 10, right, is basically a big change for me. Okay, to start learning exactly where things are, and so that's the reason I stick with that. But well, as I said, the new world is for the younger generation, and I believe employment is not going to be a problem, at least for the next 20-25 years. So I can't predict beyond that, but that's it. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Those were very interesting insights. And as I was listening to you, this idea of a person being a techie and a fuzzy at the same time came. I read this book, I think Scott Hartley was the author, and he talks about how the future belongs to the people who are domain experts in two fields, not just one. So it can be agri and tech, it can be data science and IoT, it can be, something with something. So you have to be a fuzzy which is humanities and people oriented, and a techie, which is data and machine oriented at the same time. Those kind of people are going to do better in the future. So I think you have totally exemplified that. And I think also highlighted the fact that jobs are not disappearing, but the nature of jobs is changing. And the phone example was perfect. As a kid, we used to, ask somebody for a way that, can you tell me where I can find this temple or this friend's house? And now you simply just Google map it, and you can even predict like how long it's going to take to get there. So I think, very excited about what happens with IoT. So thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
Welcome, Rupak. Thank you. Welcome, Rupak. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening to all. So myself, Rupak. So I'll just touch upon automation, like what all the advantages and how it is done, and with some few examples which I know where I involved. So basically, any industry from manufacturing or process and up to banking, they are adopting new automation technologies where advantage is productivity, safety, and profitability, and quality and flexibility. So considering this, the future of automation looks promising, where everything will be made accessible and easily available. So one of the management consultant, PwC, in 2018, they have clearly stated the new technologies will create many new jobs. And these technologies will boost productivity and generate income and wealth, and whatever additional incomes which is generated is again gets a demand for the labor and new jobs. This is what they have uh, stated. So now let's come to how to automate. So there are three simple steps. One is U stands for understand, is S for simplify, and A for automate. Like basically understand the existing process and simplify the process and automate the process. So automation and robotics is is here, and just like steam power in 1780s and electricity in 1870s and computing system in 1960s. It is like that. So let us get into like products. Like in automation, like it starts with the PLC, where PLC supports a small micro automation, very small manufacturing setup to a big setup. And then it comes to a SCADA. The SCADA is for visualization, like visualize the process. And then comes to a DCS. The DCS is a distributed control system, which is for very big processes. And then it comes to an VFD. Now, I'll come into the detail, like what is VFD and other things. So let us get into the VFDs, like PLC, DCS, SCADA, and all these things are now heard about. Now, if you in an industry, generally 70% of the electrical load is motor load, and all these motors are run in a fixed speed. But nowadays, with the automation, to run the motor with the variable speed according to machine and process application, it requires a drive, which is called variable frequency drive. The frequency is mentioned because the speed is proportional to the frequency. And VFD play a critical role in energy saving, particularly in variable torque applications like fan and pump. So if you see like pumps where there is a damper, and dampers are manually operated to control the flow. So with the fixed speed of motor, when you run a fan or pump with the fixed speed, then you need to vary the damper to control the flow. With the variable frequency drives, where you can change the speed of the motor to control the flow in a closed loop, where you can sense the flow using a flow meter, and you can change the speed accordingly. And drives do not only gives variable speed, it also delivers smooth start and stop, which reduce the mechanical impact on machines and equipments, and this also improves the power factor of the system and reduce maximum demand in a factory. So this is one of the, and it is clearly mentioned that 50% of the automation demands are based on like cater to VFDs market. So, and as an example, like where VFDs are critically used, uh, there is an, you might have heard of gearing in a system where the mechanical gearing is been done. Mechanical gearing basically, like you have a shaft, and so so you have a main shaft, and then you have multiple other shafts where the gearing is done through a belt, and it has a mechanical backlash, and the positioning accuracy is also not as good. So what has been developed? Then it is called an electronic gearing. So in electronic gearing, like each shaft will have its own independent motors, and it is all driven by these motors are called servo motors because of its dynamics, and it has been driven by an VFD, and these VFDs will synchronize all the motors with the required gearings. So the advantage of electronic gearing is an accuracy and wear and tear of the mechanical and backlash. So what happens, like if you know the printing, which is the most critical application, where you have multiple 5-color printing, 7-color printings. So in these applications, this electronic gear comes into handy. So basically now if you see here, whatever I explained, there are you are involving with the mechanical as an electronics. Now there is a new field of engineering which is called mechatronics, is widely used in robotics also. So this is a new invention which is come, or new branch which has came up after an automation. So the second example which I would like to give, which is, and the first one which I has explained is for factory automation. The second one which I would like to give, which is recently we are doing a big project for DCS project for specialty chemicals. You know, this company is first time getting into an automation, and first time they are directly going into a DCS, not to even PLC. So the operators, those who are running their plant, they are not conversant with the plant which is having a sophisticated automation system. So now we are giving a software wherein they can simulate the entire process, and you can train their operator without actually getting into the process. But it's like a virtual simulation. So the operators, existing operators and new operators can be trained to the full extent, so that when they sit on the actual process to operate, they will not have any difficulties in run the operation and understanding. Besides this, in the engineering stage itself, suppose a process plant for a greenfield project, they are coming up with a new process plant, and without putting up an entire plant, you can design a plant on a software, and you can simulate with all field elements and sensors put together, and you can understand like what is the productivity, what is an efficiency you're going to have, what improvisation you are going to have. So these are the new trends which is coming up with the softwares. And when for a programmer point of view, when you write a programming, it's like you can do a coding and you can try that entire programming, which then he can have some errors in that programs. So there is another virtual simulation programming kit where he can simulate the entire process, where even your field elements has been simulated. So when it go to the actual commissioning and then the plant, so he can straight away get into the programming which is 100% tested. So these are the two examples. One is related to factory automation, another one is the process automation. So the third one is like, it's a very simple application where you might be knowing all pencils, Natraj pencil. So we have done an automation for these company. The pencils in the initial period, if you know, like when you put a pencil into a sharpener, the lead used to break. So the people may be thinking it's maybe bad quality, then how to segregate. Everything is done manually. So using high resolution cameras. We are inspecting the pencils once it is manufactured for the centric of the lead, so that, you know, it can, when you, the bad quality pencils are not goes to the market. So they do a segregation in 3 types. That is, where both the ends are fine and one end is fine as far as lead center is concerned. So accordingly, if you see in the pencil, like they have black paint on the one end. So by this, the productivity is going to improve and you have a quality product in the market. So these are the 3 examples which I wanted to share, I think, and this is all from my end. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Rupak. I really enjoyed the technical detail that you provided. Next up, we have Mr. Prashant Kandoi. So good evening and welcome. Good to see you. And if Rupak, if I can request you to stop sharing the screen, and it's over to Prashantji. So would love to hear your thoughts on the future, and we have students here, we have counselors here, on how automation is impacting future job opportunities.
Yeah. So I am not going to take as long as my colleagues. I'm going to keep it very nice and short and sweet. So thanks, Neeraj. And the idea is to envision the future as people, as leaders. And there is a lot of artificial intelligence, IoT, machine learning, which is spoken about. All 3 of you have spoken a lot about these. The challenge for companies is, how do we use all these technologies and combine it with the brick and mortar industry to really make use of these technologies and make processes more efficient. So the idea for management of companies would be to increase production, to do processes more safely, more quality so that there are less of rejections, and with less of manpower. These are the things that the companies' managements would be looking at while they wish to merge technology with the brick and mortar. The software tools available here are ERP, artificial intelligence applications, CRM, and so many others. On the hardware side, we have automatic machines, machine learning hardware, tracing applications, mechanized constructions. For example, if you look today at the speed at which the metros are being constructed across various cities in India, it's mind-boggling. I don't think so we've seen the speed of construction anywhere. It comes through automation and mechanization. We hear of China constructing a tower, a 50, 60-story tower in a month's time. It's unbelievable. And when we see it on WhatsApp videos, it's really happening. A hospital which is constructed by them in less than a week. We have so many opportunities in warehousing automation, where we have robots going about placing of all our parcels in these warehouses, which stock lakhs and lakhs of items, and recovering them so that, when Flipkarts and the Amazons of the world promise us deliveries on the same day or the next day, it comes through automation. So this is the merging of the two brick and mortar with the technology. And our company probably today quotes more competitively on labor charges. We do projects across the country. So we quote more competitively on labor than we probably did 10 years back. So what we used to charge customers 10 years back for labor charges is higher than what we charge today. And I'm sure in 10 years, the manpower cost must have gone up at least 3 times. How do we do that? I think the entire play is on speed and speed and efficiency. So whether it's a career in designing such solutions or manufacturing them, innovation in finding new materials, new approaches to reducing downtime through machine learning, there are so many opportunities. And as even I learn every day, there are so many further opportunities which are available and for students. I would now like to invite Anant. Anant is my son, and he's just minted as a fresh engineer last week. He's done his engineering from Harvey Mudd and is a STEM student. He'll share with you all a few thoughts on what colleges today in the US are having a flavor of the technologies which are being taught to students and how they are helpful to merge them with real industry jobs. Thanks, Dheeraj.
Thank you. Welcome, Anant. Good to see you.
Hi, Neeraj. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
So, I'm not sure how helpful what I say will be, but I guess what I can tell you is my experiences at Harvey Mudd over the past 4 years and what I have seen and talking to my other friends at other colleges about how we are being taught and how we are being imparted knowledge about different kinds of new and upcoming fields in the future. So first and foremost, there are so many classes that you can take in college now. It's not just the general 5 courses options. There are at least 50 different courses that you can take every semester. Of course, you can't take 50 courses a semester, but you have those options. And it goes all the way in engineering itself. It can go from bioengineering all the way to computer engineering to chemical engineering. You don't even need to take engineering courses to pass as an engineer, because now engineering has become so much more flexible than it was in the past. For example, I've taken computer science courses that are completely coding based courses with like no hardcore engineering in them, and my college has accepted them as an engineering course for my graduation. And so colleges are getting a lot more flexible with what engineering implies, and we can take a much more broad set of courses. Of course, as you were talking about in your presentation, where it's not just STEM fields that are the future, there are also non-STEM fields. Colleges are offering a lot more humanities courses. Personally, at Harvey Mudd College, since it's a liberal arts STEM college, I was allowed to take a lot of humanities courses like painting, theater, psychology, philosophy. And I feel like all of those are really helpful in planning towards a future for our civilization. Just as an example, you might wonder, why are these courses important? So the future of driving is self-driving cars right now. And sure, I can know how to code and make the navigation for a self-driving car, and I might have the hardware skills to build a car itself and the sensors. But you need to think of ethical questions when you make a car like that. Think about philosophical questions like, if you have a passenger in the seat and a person on the road, and you can only save one of those two in an accident, who do you save? Do you save the person in the car, or do you save the person on the road? And these are questions that can't just be answered by STEM courses being taken all through your 4 years in college. You need to take other kinds of courses to be able to have a wider breadth of knowledge. Apart from courses, there are also seminars that colleges conduct all year round. Seminars that may happen once a week during lunchtime. So you can take your plate of food and sit in the seminar and learn about a little bit of like IoT or AI or ML, and you can do this for an entire semester. There are online courses you can take. So for example, I know Stanford, for example, offers a great course in machine learning that anyone and everyone can take. I'm not sure what the course name is, but if you just look up Stanford machine learning, I'm sure you'll be able to find it. There are clubs in college that offer like-minded students an opportunity to enlarge their ideas and opinions about these courses. For example, in my college, we had a hacking club, which taught students about how to hack, but positively. So I personally didn't join that club, so I don't know what it entailed, but I do know that such clubs exist. And if you have a great idea and you find other people, you can always form your own clubs. There are also hackathons that you can attend where you meet a lot of other people. who make great devices and ideas, and you can share your own ideas with them and learn a lot in the process. Lastly, there's also research. So research in college is all about 10 years into the future. For example, I did research in biomedical engineering with a professor where we were trying to heal traumatic brain injury that can occur. And that is stuff that hasn't been invented yet. And we work on things like brain cells and how brain cells might be affected if we add stem cells to them. And can stem cells be changed into brain cells so that the brain can heal again? These kinds of ideas and technologies are just some that the colleges around the United States and probably around the world are offering to students nowadays. And honestly, there's just too much being offered, and it's all about how much you can grab at one time, because you definitely can't grab everything that they're throwing at you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anand. Very interesting insights. I'm very happy to hear you had a positive experience at Harvard. It was just yesterday, I think we were sitting in this room and you were going to college. So congratulations on graduating. And I think the last point that you made is comes back a full circle to what I was talking about in innovation, and how innovation is going to be the key as we go forward, because automation is definitely amplifying, as we heard from the Avio team, and there are going to be more opportunities in automation. But at the same time, it's going to reshape our society, and there is going to be a vacuum for innovation, like Anand said, in the next 10 years to fill it up with newer products and newer solutions for all of us. The parting thought that I want to leave the entire audience with is education is the key. If you as a student would like to have competitive advantage in the future economy, having the right education is going to be the key. I think it is going to be a very big difference between the innovators and the haves and the followers, laggers, and the have-nots. So choose your education very carefully, be very mindful of the changes that are happening in society, and try to take calculated, bold moves with what you want to study at college and with what you want to do in life. So thank you to everybody on the Avio team. Thank you, Anand, for joining us. And thank you all of us for being with us. I know that we have overshot by about 12 minutes. I would be happy to answer any questions at this stage. And then we'll probably close in about 5 to 10 minutes. So they're coming in. All right, so I can see the questions. A question is, do you feel going undecided is better than choosing a major at the time of application process? So obviously, I think this is quite an ambiguous question, and it depends on the college you're applying to, right? So there are colleges where going undecided is okay because you may be able to switch into a major of your choice later. And then there are colleges out there, I'm talking about in the US, and then I'll give a response to non-US as well. In the US, where you may not be able to switch into the major that you are interested in, just simply because how competitive it was. So I think you will have to do some research on that before you decide to go undecided. And obviously, I think if you're talking about non-US colleges, I think the vast majority of them expect you to know what course you want to go into. So I think going undecided is simply not a possibility for many non-US colleges. Okay. The next question is, will the paradigm shift, which is in high support of technological advancements, unconditionally give rise in demand for more primitive jobs like handloom or even Ayurvedic medicine? Absolutely. I think, there is going to be a kickback from society, and we are obviously all going to have a demand for more niche products, right? So you can see what has happened. People have become more interested in organic food and Ayurveda, for example. So I think there's definitely going to be more opportunities for traditional sciences and traditional products and services. And I think it's because of greater awareness, which has people have been empowered by the internet. So greater awareness is going to lead to more opportunities in those fields. Although even if you're in those fields, you're going to feel the effects of automation and artificial intelligence. Okay. Another question is, how could the future of finance be affected by technology? I think this is Such a beautiful and such a broad question. I try to remind myself what it was like thinking about money for my ancestors. You know, probably they thought of cash and gold, and then their children, my parents, my grandparents, started thinking in more interesting ways about personal wealth and finance. And I don't know what they would say to something like a credit card. And you would tell them that this is money, you know, and this is online banking. And, you know, here is Paytm. So can you imagine if we just go backwards 20 years and into the year 2000, just 20 years. And how many people were doing online banking? Or how many people were using credit cards? Or how many people were doing Paytm and how that's changed society? So I think if you just fast forward the clock 20 years, I think there are going to be some phenomenal changes in the financial sector, the banking sector, insurance, and just end customer and how they think about money and what they think money is as well, you know. So, I mean, people are investing in cryptocurrencies, right? So I think just there are so many changes I cannot even begin to list all of them. You know? Okay, lots of other questions coming. Can the field of peace and international relations stay unautomated? Yeah, that's a brilliant question. I'm so glad you asked that. That's such an interesting question. I haven't thought about that. And I suppose, you know, time will tell. I don't really have an answer for this. I know that it's going to become more important as we go ahead because of a lot of social and political turbulence in the world. How is technology going to affect that remains to be seen. I mean, one simple example right now is involvement of individuals, organizations, and technology companies in the election process, in you know, in cyber attacks. We are seeing that technology and international relations are merging together. So, will it be automated? I don't have an answer for that. I suppose not, but time will tell. Okay, my God, so many questions. I'm being bombarded. How can the future of pets and taming animals be affected by technology? Okay, I definitely, veterinary medicine is getting more and more digital. I don't think I am an expert on answering this question, so I think I'm going to defer that, and perhaps if you get in touch with me later, we might be able to discuss that. I'm seeing more and more professionals turning to yoga as a profession. These are young men and women who are in this field. Yeah, definitely. I think so. So I did speak about mental health and wellness, right? So we never patented it. As India, we never IP protected yoga. I think we gave it freely to the world and Indians took it and rolled with it. So we have seen all kinds of variants of yoga. I think this is a trend which is only going to increase, you know. So is it going to be a full-time career for you to become a yoga professional? Is it going to be something you do on the side that you will have to decide? But definitely, I think the number of people who are becoming professional, you know, meditation coaches or yoga coaches, it's on the rise and it will continue to rise. Humanities. I love this question. I think digital humanities fascinates me particularly because, you know, when you spoke to humanities professors and students in the past and what they thought about humanities, and when you talk to them right now and talk to them about the future, I think there has been a very big paradigm shift in how humanities is studied, assessed, discussed, and communicated. So how are people feeling about electing a certain leader used to be done offline. And I think that whole conversation has greatly been affected by all the insights that digital data is providing. So, you know, how frequently is the word Modi being said or Rahul Gandhi being said? You know, you can study that in digital humanities. So it's simply the study of people in the digital space. We have a lot of data coming in from so many sources, and to understand trends and relationships in that. And I mean, what is Facebook if not digital humanities? You know, what is social media if not digital humanities? Our entire communication has shifted into this digital virtual space. So, I mean, there are so many opportunities here, and even technology companies love hiring humanities students who have a flair for digital sciences. Okay, next question is, how will the future of psychology and behavioral studies change as compared to now? I think there are two big trends affecting them. Number one is our understanding of the brain itself is changing very fast. And I think, like Anant was giving us an example, you know, about fixing brain trauma. So there are a lot of developments in the biology side of it. There are a lot of developments in the technology side of how we are engaging with each other and with information digitally. So I think that's the macro trend you need to look at. You know, A, our understanding of biology and the mind is changing, and B, our behavior around digital life is changing. And I think the overlap of both of those and those trends are going to shape the future. Specifically, future opportunities, I don't think I'm qualified to comment on that. Okay. Is the area of game development too competitive for a significant income, especially since the maximum ethical price of game has not changed for years, even though inflation? Absolutely. I know that there are a lot of challenges in the gaming industry, and you know, gamers and game developers are not getting paid enough. And but yet, I think if you're somebody who's interested in this field, you know, there are going to be a lot of opportunities, not just to get employed, but also opportunities for you to freelance, an opportunity for you to come up with interesting things. You know, we have seen the rise of YouTube celebrities and digital celebrities, and I suspect in the future we are going to see the rise of the freelance game designer, you know, who builds a game and is able to launch it online, and thousands and thousands of people download their game, and they earn a small sum from every user that downloads it. So, I mean, if you're somebody who's interested in this, there are definitely a lot of opportunities. Simply look at the fact that it's become more democratic. You know, playing games, the base of who plays games has increased, and people are ready to pay more for games and what they do within games. Okay. Okay, more questions. All right. Okay. Can you throw some more light on environmental sustainability? And that's the last question I'm going to take. So more and more jobs showing up in the field of environment. So more investments are going into this space. So energy generation, if you talk about renewable energy, I think there are going to be more jobs in that sector. I think if you talk about cleaning up the environment, there are going to be more jobs in that sector. I think if you talk about water and water processing, there are going to be more jobs over there. I think if you talk about waste management, it's one of the golden areas. You know, if you analyze Bill Gates' portfolio, he's got a significant portion to waste management companies. So, and how we process our waste and how we are able to, you know, recycle a lot of material, there's going to be a lot of opportunities in that area. So, I mean, this is a huge field for the future, right? So, financial implications of it, social implications of it, technological implications are going to be very big. So, if you're somebody who's interested, please go ahead. There are fantastic opportunities, and I would say that probably the better education you can seek is in Europe, particularly in Northern Europe, in Germany, Netherlands, and Scandinavian countries. US organizations tend to be not as neck deep into it as the Europeans. So I would suggest you shift your focus to Europe for educating yourself in environmental sciences. Okay. All right. I think I'm going to close it there in the interest of time. It's 7:55. Thank you so much, everybody, for sticking around. Those of you who are connected to me, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach me. For everybody else, thank you so much for being with us here today. I hope you have taken away some very interesting thoughts. I have definitely learned a thing or two. And this video is recorded and it will be going up on my YouTube channel if you want to revisit it later or share it with your friends and family. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself. See you next week.